Hey there, guys. All right, I'm going to do an end of the market video, kind of a closing market wrap. There was a few things that I saw that I want to point out for everyone. So I'll go ahead and go through the charts. We'll look at some sectors and hit that thumbs up for me right now. Okay, I really do appreciate that. Before I get started, that really helps me out, and I'll continue to put these videos out. All right, let's get right into it. So triple Qs. Really, what I want to point out. On the daily chart, nothing's changed. We're still heading down. And I told everyone in the morning video I got short right on the kickback rally that we had this morning. That's where I took the short position. And so far it's working out well. And I think we're going to continue lower. So I think we're heading down to... I've got these two trend lines. I've got one here which really is kind of a more major one, which is right about 280.40, and that's really covers this entire range that we were in back here. That's really the high of the range. So I'd expect some sort of a test of that, and that's where the buyers will probably step in, the longer term buyers. So we'll watch that, but I still think we got to get down there. So we've got a couple more points to go. I think from where we're at, that's a drop of, about 1.5% more to go to the downside. But on the hourly, I want to point this out. This is what happened today, and this is why these levels are so important. Here's your gap right here at 285.70, and you can see we just bounced right up and recovered it and then rolled down and failed. Also, you've got this level right here at... Well, no, it's about 285.70, 285.80 is the level that I found that really this market was trying to hold as resistance. And what it did today is we created this bull trap. We basically popped above it, and then we, it made it look bullish. Everything looked good, and then it faded and sold off and closed the day with momentum to the downside. So I think we're heading lower. Probably going to wake up to a gap down tomorrow. One of the things, though, if you look at the 1 minute, look what the chart did right here on that level. You can see here, we popped. Here's the day's action. We basically, popped above it. It barely made it, and then it popped above it again, held it, came down, held it as support right here, and then it, so it was bullish at that moment. Everything looked good, but that was a bull trap in hindsight, of course. And then they faded it hard, popped it up into resistance, and faded it into the close. So short is the position that I have, and it's looking good still. So I think we're heading lower on that one. Let's look at some of these sectors. XLV here. Let me extend this line out here. XLV basically, I think XFL is kind of in middle, kind of no man's land, but I still think XLV is heading down to this 97. I just, today doesn't add much information except for the fact that we keep making lower lows and lower highs. So you can see here's your high, lower high, and then you've got a lower low here. So now expect a lower low, and it's a downtrend ultimately. XLF still hanging in there. Support is really about 24.66, and we're just kind of grinding around, consolidating a little bit. So we do have, a little bit of divergence, but nothing that's crazy. Let's look at the daily here. I don't really see anything here in the chart. So just a consolidation period, kind of hanging in there. Not bullish or bearish, really neutral in my book. Apple here closing back below support. So basically, you got support here at 118.60. This is, it gapped over that in the past, came down, tagged it as support. It held, started to move higher. We really shouldn't have, there's no business being back into this range again, but then again, it came back down and faded back below. Then it did a test from below and rejected. So that's your line in the sand right now, 118.50 on Apple. But we're back within this trading range, this big trading range that we've been in. So I think Apple heads probably to the bottom of the trading range now. which could be substantially lower. So nothing really looks, the price action that just happened is not bullish in Apple. The same with Microsoft, really. And really, here's an hourly chart. You can see here's the trend line that I had, or the support slash resistance, 215.67. We gapped up, moved in, came back down for a back test, but it held and then started to move higher. If this was bullish, this back test here was really your buy point. The buyers step in and they push it up, but instead it moved back below, and we've now recaptured the resistance. We have a downtrend where we have lower highs, we're making lower lows, we're downtrending. Pretty bearish action that we closed back below this trading channel. So we're back within this big range here at the top. So I think we're heading down in Microsoft down to about 199, the bottom of the channel. Not all at once, of course. It's going to take time. Amazon held support right here at 3207. So it's closed at support. I would expect that if Microsoft and Apple continue to sell off, Amazon's going to fade back into this channel, this big sideways channel as well. And if it does, then I would look for it to hit the bottom of the channel around 29.35. But as of right now, we're at support. Redfin, you look here on the daily, and Redfin's about to the area, not quite there, but just about there, where I would expect the buyers are going to want to start looking at this to step in around 46.60. Tomorrow would be right around 46.60. So if this thing opens up around, if it opens around that level, that's probably where the buyers are going to step in. Could be an area to go long. There's no divergence right now though, so it's the trend, the divergence, or the momentum is still to the downside. And if the market's looking like it's going to break, this might actually be where Redfin breaks its support. A big break of support would be a big sell signal in this thing, setting it up to move down to 35 and potentially 31.50. And from where we're at now, that is a drop of 33% to the low. Tesla has now broken any uptrend line that you can make. I mean, if I move this around, here's the lows back in March. Even if I connect the last data point right here, which is not a valid trend line because you only have the low and then another data point, you need at least 3 data points to make a trend line. The point is, I can't make any trend line that where Tesla has not broken that trend line. So we're going to move that trend line back to where I had it. But the point is, Tesla broke. It's now no longer in an uptrend. It's now kind of in a sideways trend, basically. But I think it's starting the next downtrend. Divergence, negative divergence right here in the PPO and the RSI telling me that the uptrend is going to break and we're going to head lower. So again, everyone knows where I think it's going, but just, 226 and 244.50 are the areas where I think this thing's heading. It's going to take a little while, but that's where I think it's heading. Philip Morris closed right at support. Big sell day, big drawdown day today, down almost 6%. And this looked like a bull flag, but now it's obviously failed, and you get the impulsive selling right down to support, closing at support. So if we bounce here, then that's going to be a successful hold of support. And if it fails and breaks down, then this was another bull trap in Philip Morris. And if you get another bull trap and it actually verifies and shows you that it's one, then Philip Morris could easily head down to the bottom of the price channel, which is a down, around $54 or somewhere down there, potentially quite a ways down, maybe another 26% down. So watch for that. That's kind of the key to watch for where this thing's going in the future. It's at support now, so it should hold, but it might not. Zoom here, big bearish engulfing candle right here where it just engulfed the past 2 days and broke on the hourly, just this short-term support line. You can see here we just had this last couple days where it was building support. We broke that impulsively as well. What I'm more interested in is the daily and kind of the larger picture, not so much the hourly. What I see here on the daily, obviously big negative divergence. It's confirmed negative divergence right there. Price was moving higher. PPO and RSI moving lower, saying this trend is about to end. That's what that says. However, we still have, we still have some support. This is the trend line support right up here. So I'm looking for that to break. So it's got to come down a little bit more. I'm looking for, roughly 463 or so to break, depending on when it gets there. And that's still a drop of about 13.5%. Now remember, this thing runs like crazy. It's run up like crazy. So it could break. It could get down to this trend line very quickly. It could be there in a day. SOXX, semiconductors, big negative divergence here on the daily, now confirmed. Not quite confirmed on the PPO. We haven't seen the PPO turnover, so I'd want to see that first before kind of, having more confidence in this. But it's there on the RSI. The last time I kind of looked through this, I could find it was really back here. This is where you had big negative divergence like that, and you can see we made slightly higher highs. Another marginal high right there, and then you got the trend change, the big drop. So we're starting to build that right here. I'd want to see the PPO really start to turn down to confirm this. But again, we've got a high here, a little cluster of higher highs right up in here. That's your divergent high on the RSI. So now we look for this thing to roll over. But again, you want to see price supports break on this. It did break right here. We had this kind of minor price support. If you look at the daily, yeah, I mean, that was your price support. Look at this. Look how thin this thing moved up on. It was, decent candles right here, but towards the end, just gap, thin candle, gap, thin candle, gap, thin candle, gap, thin candle. Just gapped its way to the top. I'd expect this all these gaps to just get washed out, probably with one candle. Could be tomorrow, who knows? But so near-term support, we'll probably get a reaction right around this level of 311, get a little bounce or something, and then we'll see. But probably going to head lower after that. PHM still looks good. Here's what we got: big negative divergence on the daily chart. And this was your last divergent high right here, where we made a lower high on the PPO and the RSI and a higher price right in here. So there's your divergent high. Then you look for trend line to break. If I go to the hourly, we really start, we broke back here, the original trend line, but then they made a secondary trend line. We broke again. I added to back tests every single time we tagged there, and there. We then broke. And zooming into the hourly, look at how they did the bull trap today. They pop it up over the support, over the resistance, and then fade it back down, with giving you that daily close back below resistance. So to me, this just tells me we're heading lower in PHM. Carvana, you can see we closed the day just below the gap right there. So we've actually successfully entered the gap with the daily close. The gap is sitting right about 290 roughly. We just closed just below that. So what I'm expecting is we move, we fill the gap now down to 174. That's really the short-term, near-term trade for this thing. I think that continues to look like it's in play. Big negative divergence right here was telling me that we were going to start to reverse, and so I think that's where we go. Overstock, there's no trade that I want to point out, but I just want to point out how these divergences work. You can see here, Overstock, this is your daily chart. Nice clean uptrend from the March lows. We just were walking up the uptrend. Then you got negative divergence. It came into play right here. You can see there's your negative divergence where you made a higher high in price right up here on a lower low in momentum. So then that cues you in to look for a break of trend. And there's your break of trend right there, that one candle. That's your sell signal. You got the sell signal, so if you took that sell signal and you were quick, then you would be up as of right now about 30% on the trade. It just plunged right down and it just chopped sideways. To me, this looks like we're going to break the support. If we get back down to the 65, I'd expect 65, or yeah, it's about 64.50. I'd expect that to break, and we will then head down to the next support level, which really doesn't really come into play. There's a little bit of a cluster right in here. I'd probably have to go to the hourly to tighten it up. Yeah, you know, it's pretty thin all through here. So I would say it's right about there. That's pretty obvious right in there. Down to this 29.27. And that's possibly the it for, you know, that might be the end of the sell-off. And that's a drop from there, 58%. But again, you know, a drop of 50, you have to realize where this thing came from. From the lows up to the highs, really, from March of this year, the thing's up, you know, 4,000% or something. You know, it was down at $2.55, and it ran all the way up to, you know, where it's at now, or the highs of 127%. So that a crazy run. So to see a drop of 50% is completely realistic for us for this stock. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here, guys. Just wanted to point out what I saw with how the market closed today. Looks like it was a pretty weak close. I'm expecting more downside. I'm personally positioned that way, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. So thank you guys. Catch you on the next one.